Hey, thanks for joining. I wanted to do a impromptu video on dog with hat. I thought this was interesting and wanted to just provide some thoughts on this meme coin. And by the way, I'm on the Kraken exchange. So I know there's other exchanges that have a bit more history, but I'm not too sure which ones they are. So the more history, the better. So if anybody has any suggestions, just let me know and I can do a redo. But for now, I wanted to just share with you a few things. So we're on the daily time frame. This goes back to February 24. Let me just share with you a couple things I'm seeing. One of my favorite traders, by the way, I've been studying these, I'll call them like legendary traders over the last 6 or 7 years. And these could be professional traders that are, alive today or have passed away. But one of my absolute favorites is Nicholas Darvis. He was a professional dancer in the 1950s. He and his sister would travel the world. His travels, he would read the Baron magazine, which came out once a week. But after several years, he brought this rectangle to life. And this is one of the things that I wanted to share because I saw this. This is the rectangle. And they were around before Nicholas Darvis, but he really brought this to life. So a couple of things I wanted to share is you can see right here, we had this explosive move back in, February that reached up here. And so from an Elliott wave standpoint, let me just share with you what I'm seeing. Just clean this up a little bit. So we had this one wave ended right there. And then the 2 and the 4 are always corrective. So here's a 2 wave. And then what gives it away is this explosive move right here. You can see it. These are indicative of a 3rd wave, which are the longest and strongest. And then you can see right here, we capped out on that 3rd wave, came down here for the corrective 4th wave. And then we landed right here on the 5th. And typically, not all the time, but typically the 1 wave will mirror the 5th wave in terms of length. Not all the time, but this is very textbook. This is like the ultimate. If there was a college class on how to teach impulse waves, this is it right here. So here's the 1 wave, the 2 wave, and then the end of the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th. And then what always comes after the 5th is some sort of corrective pattern. And what I learned from Nicholas Darvis is that this channel that we are in are typically continuation patterns. And there's a saying out there, the bigger the base, the higher in space. And this base dates back to officially started right there, which is March of 2024. And so what is that? I can't do math, but 8, 9 months just off the top of my head. So love that. Now, let me share something else with you. Yeah, this is why I wanted to share this with everybody is if you're not familiar with Elliott waves, maybe just spend a little time on GPT, but this is what's really exciting. So this validates my point earlier that this is the end of the 1 wave and all of this corrective action right here. It's a ABC wave. So here's the A, the B, and the C. C's always got to be lower than A, which it is. And so this is a nice, appears to be the end of the 2nd wave. And now we are in the early stages, a 3rd wave. So here is and there's impulse waves within impulse waves. So again, we're starting on the 3rd wave, right? But now we are starting the 3rd wave within the 3rd wave. And why do I say that? So we've got this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so that'll finish the first leg, the first wave of that cycle degree 3rd wave. And then down here looks to be the end of the 2nd wave. So now we look like we are in multiple 3rd waves. So if I were just to zoom out a little bit, see what this looks like. Let me share with you some targets and I'll clean this up a little bit. By the way, this is not financial advice, but as time goes by, we're going to learn a lot. As of now, these are some really good targets. Let me just share with you what I'm thinking. So right now, we're just doing a little basing, and we've got this best fit channel right here. So you can see the channel started right here, and we touched it, we wicked it right here. It might be a little difficult to see, but now we're doing a little bit of basing, and I fully expect us to shoot to the upside here pretty quick in coming days, coming weeks. Because I also feel like in 2025, Q1, Q2 are going to be really strong. I would say that this bull market that we're currently in is about 80% done, but that last 20% is extremely explosive. This chart is indicative of what is to come between now and mid 2025, in my opinion. So anyways, here is that channel I'm referring to. These are the fib extensions, which I use as my price targets. And this is interesting. See this 50 line in the Fibonacci sequence, but it's a whole number, which is interesting because it coincides with the top of the channel. So I fully expect when price gets up to this 50% level, this neckline, so I'll extend that, but I fully expect price to get somewhat rejected right here. I don't expect it to be too long, but we will find out when price does get there. Then we've got the 0.618, the golden zone. Then this is the 786. This will also be overhead resistance. This is like almost guaranteed. But then when we get this corrective move done, eventually we're going to move up into this green shaded area, which is at the 127 or the 138 fib level, which is just shy of the 1.618. So this 1.618 in terms of price is $11.68. And at time of recording, we're down here at $1.85. So in generality speaking, I'm seeing a minimum price target of $9.55 and potentially as high as $11.68. The other thing I'll say is that these rectangles that we are in, there's a saying because this is now considered a big base. And the saying is the bigger the base, the higher in space. And this definitely qualifies as a nice base. And this type of price action is enough to drive anybody crazy because it really is a test of your patience. There's no telling when we're going to see price break out, but I can tell you this from a sentiment standpoint, by the time you feel like you're completely lost hope and burnout is typically when we see price start to go to the upside. And based off of these wave counts, I expect it to happen here pretty soon because I can imagine for those of you that have been sitting in this thing, holding that bag, you're wondering, when on earth is this thing going to finally move? I think that time has finally come here again in the coming days and the coming weeks where we could expect this to move to this 23.6 fib, which is $3.18. That'll be in my opinion, the next kind of key level. But the thing I wanted to mention is that these rectangles, these are measured moves. And if I were just to eye the depth of this channel and just place it. Oh, that doesn't let me do that. So I'm just going to eye it. So I don't want to I'm just eyeing this. I'm going to be conservative because if I'm eyeing this, somebody keep me honest. But I wanted the height of this. It's supposed to be the height of this channel, but just to be conservative, this looks to me like it's shy of the height of this channel, and that's okay. So if I slide that over, and this kind of talks about what I was mentioning in terms of price targets, and this aligns nicely with this gray shaded area. We'll know in the future, but any one of these levels up in here is really around this meme coin. These things get really explosive. Again, we'll know here the coming months if this $14 level is in play, but I think for now, it's really fair to say that this green shaded area at some point in 2025, in the first half, or I'm thinking more around Q2, end of Q2, potentially, we could see price hit these levels. So I just jumped over to TradingView real quick, and there's another view that I wanted to share with you, and we can wrap this up. Let me draw the channel just real quick. But also am curious on the total duration of how long price action's been going sideways and testing patience. Yeah, that's interesting. So as of now, we've been going sideways for 304 days. That's definitely, I can imagine if you've got a decent sized bag, that it's a test of your patience. I'm going to extend this out a little bit. Actually, you know what I'll do? Let me just get rid of that. Yeah, so here is our rectangle. And then just from a volume standpoint, so this is interesting, and this is good news. I love this indicator. It's a volume indicator. But this orange line is the point of control. Ideally, we want price action. Here's price. We want ideally price to be above that. Then I'd feel much more comfortable. But what's nice is we've got this large volume node right here. And this faint dotted line right here, that's current price. And currently, if you can just tighten this up a little or zoom out a little bit. But right now, price is above this volume node on this, really the wall of worry is what I call it. But you can see we want to get price above this orange point of control and then eventually over this last large node, and I'd feel much more comfortable. Let me get rid of that. Then I'm going to place some fib extensions. So I'm down here. So I'm going to anchor that as at the low and then right here at the high, and I will anchor this right here and swing it over. And I thought this was interesting and make this a little more pronounced. Yeah, this is interesting. So again, I anchored the fib right there and at this high, and then also right there at that low. But this is what's interesting. So you see this price action right in here, and if you're wondering like, why is it holding up here nicely? It's basing right here. Well, that's because we ran into the 1 level, which is a whole number in the fib sequence. And just these act as really either strong overhead resistance and or support. And in this case, you can see it's acting really nicely as support. And then also what I thought was interesting is at the top of this channel, you can see this, that's the 1.618. So if you're wondering why price got rejected at this level, and that's because it got kicked back from the 1.618 level right here, as well as it got kicked back right here. But this is another reason why I'm excited about where price action is going. And again, we don't know when price is going to get out of this dang channel, but I guarantee it's going to test your patience if it hasn't already. We'll just kind of leave it with this. But what I really like seeing is this 2 level, and that 2 level is at $11.07. To me, that would be a minimum move from where we are at currently, which by the way, let's just call it 500%. That would be, a nice move. And I'm sure some are expecting even a bigger move, which is definitely not out of the cards, because this is what I've learned in all of my years in doing TA. But cryptos, even TradFi, love the Fibonacci sequence. And let me share with you this. So if we were to measure from where we're at today, and again, here is the 2 level, but cryptos, again, this may seem crazy, they love the golden zones. And I remember when I was buying Ethereum back in the day when it was $3, and I never thought it would get to $1,400, but it did, and it did it quickly. So when you see a move up to this 2.618 level, that's 2,000%. And a lot of folks would probably be thinking I'm crazy or this is out of reach, but in reality, because it's a meme coin and we're in the last 20% of this bull run, this is when that frenzy begins. So this is also not out of the question, but we can also check on this in a few months to see how we're progressing towards this. But let me just share with you, and I'll leave you with this. This is what I'm not saying expecting, but this is what I would anticipate once price finally gets out of this channel. So here we are right here. And again, I don't know what's going to happen, how we're going to get out of here, what this pattern looks like. Actually, you know what? I just saw something. Let me just share with you this too. I just saw this. This is interesting too. If you're unfamiliar, let me get rid of these. Actually, I'm going to slide these fibs over. I'm going to keep them, but I'm going to slide them over because we're going to use these as price targets in a second. This is interesting. In trading or technical analysis, patterns are everything. There's geometric shapes, there's patterns with moving averages, and then this one that I'm seeing right here is a inverse head and shoulders. So like right here is the left shoulder. And this is the head. And this sure looks like the bottom of a right shoulder. I like that a lot. This makes a lot of sense. And the reason why I think this is the bottom is because you've got all this little chunky area in here that's now acting as support. So let me get back to where I think we're going to head. Something like that. Oops. So I'm going to stop right there because I'm going to extend. I'm going to give us some more room. Okay, so let's say that we eventually we get up to the top of this next neckline or this 1.618. A couple things can happen. We could either just bust out and go right to that 2 level. I've seen that often. Or we could go sideways and then there. Or we could shoot up there, somewhere up here, and then come back down and it's a pullback or a retest. We could go sideways just a little bit, and this would be totally normal. Base a little bit, and then shoot up to this 2 level. And it'll be interesting once we get to this level. This typically acts as, in this case, I would fully expect to act as overhead resistance. But when we get to this level, if you're interested, maybe reach back out to me and we can take another look to see where price action is eventually, how it's doing and where it's heading. But with all that being said, it really does look nice in terms of what's in front of you. And I mentioned this on one of my other videos. By the way, that 2 level, yeah, it's at 500%. And by the way, back to the all-time high is another 159%. May sound like a lot, but I actually really see this happening. And I may have forgot to say this, but these inverse head and shoulders pattern, these are literally the #1 most bullish patterns in all of technical analysis. These are also measured moves, which is I was alluding to about this channel. So again, that measured move takes us somewhere up in this area up in here. All things look really nice for this altcoin. So I think that is a wrap, and I hope that was helpful. And if there's anything I can do for anybody, just reach out and happy to help. And thanks so much.